In 2001, the St. Lucia Golf and Country Club expanded to an impressive 18-hole facility, almost doubling in size, snaking between the luxury homes at Cap Estate. The expansion also opened their real estate division to new residential developments, owned by the club, with the potential to sell properties and homes for millions of dollars. In order to quench the thirst of an expanding and upgraded facility located in the most arid part of the island, a deal was struck to purchase water from a nearby and newly commissioned sewage treatment facility. At peak demand, approximately 300,000 gallons a day would be required. Ordinarily, these connections are commonplace and are actually a useful and financially viable means to dispense with treated sewer water. That is, only if the necessary treatment regulations and oversights are in effect.
I bought my property about 15 years ago, and it's been pretty good living here, except for the problems I've had over the last 6 years that we've been trying to address.
If the St. Lucia Golf and Country Club's unregulated procedures become replicated island-wide, there are several areas of critical concern.
It all started back in 2001 when the golf club expanded the facility to the second 9 holes. And from the initiation of that part of the project, we had huge problems.
The irrigation system on the golf course, there are certain times of the year that the sin that comes from the irrigation system is unbearable, you know. And I have concerns about that. And I spoke with many of the neighbors, and they themselves have had concerns about the smell coming out of the irrigation of the golf course itself. We have sent letters to them, and I don't think they have been very receptive at all.
If it was run like it should, I mean, it would be a dream place to live and raise a family, but I mean, I must admit, it's far from it. The last 6 years have been ridiculous. So the golf course now runs right on the border with my property, which visually looks really beautiful. And in the beginning, I was really pleased.
In fact, the residents on the windward side of the massive, powerful sprinkler systems believed they were safe until the sprinkler water began invading their homes and persons started to become ill. Their pristine swimming pools turned green, and the smell of raw sewage became a regular part of evening dinner.
From the first time they started to spray the lawns with the powerful sprinklers that they use, and the spray coming into my house, I mean, the smell of sewage was just ridiculous. I mean, we couldn't believe it was what it was. So we wrote to them asking if it was just the smell that we should worry about, you know, and it wasn't anything in the water. But nobody replied, you know. We wrote for 5 years. I mean, every month a letter went off, and nobody answered. So it wasn't until 2005, I think it was, that the government sent somebody up to test the water, and they tested it for 4 months. And the results were, they floored us, the results. I mean, sewage, I mean, raw sewage in the water, and we're thinking we've been drinking the water because up a cap, if you don't have a huge tank, I mean, you're without water half the year. So we've been drinking that water for the past 5 years. All of a sudden, you know, we're in the doctor's offices trying to figure out, you know,
the water pump connections to the treatment plant was effective.
Where do we go from here?
The report revealed the most dire statistics on the contents of the water, which was now finding its way into the neighborhood's drinking water and thereby consumed by residents. The findings on suspended solids, that is human and other fecal matter, fecal coliform and pathogen bacteria, was so disturbing that an order from the government's chief medical officer to sever their water pump connections to the treatment plant was effected.
I started to develop really ugly sores all over my body. I mean, kept me away from work. There were sores in my scalp, in my ears, and my legs. I mean, to this day, I mean, the scars are just crazy. Then there were allergies, you know, just all of a sudden, you know, my face would swell, you know, hands would swell. So it has been a real serious problem.
Weak regulatory authorities meant that the operators utilizing potentially harmful compounds are under no obligations to comply with any standards for disposal.
To date, we have not seen any serious commitment from the golf club to make a difference in the way we live.
Well, I mean, I've understood from, residents and people around that, there was some issues with respect to the water being used. I can't say directly, what the magnitude of the problem is, but I'm also aware that, that they're getting a supply from the Roddy Bay sewage treatment plant. So Wasco is in fact selling the golf course water.
When I think, I had my daughter bathing in the pool, drinking the water from the tap. It's just a little bit disturbing that people would just be so uncaring about the way they treat their environment and the way they treat their neighbors. I mean, it's just not right.
Over the past year, opposition to the development of new resort properties with golf courses in sensitive ecosystems island-wide have grown, but developments proceed nonetheless. From rainforest reserves to coastal zones and into the natural habitat of rare and endangered species, the development plans are undisturbed.
When you talk about establishing a series of golf courses in St. Lucia, you're talking about utilizing lands and land space, disrupting habitats, getting onto people's lands, which they can really make use of other than those golf courses.
With its breathtaking natural beauty, the island was branded the Helen of the West, drawing similarities to Helen of Troy and the mythical battles fought in her name. In a rare twist of fate, however, St. Lucian's own Trojan horse is being wheeled into the center of its economic and social fabric, promising a gift of wealth and prosperity. But at what cost? Left to the devices of developers like the St. Lucia Golf and Country Club, the health and general well-being of St. Lucia citizens remains in very serious question.